Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and Giallo enthusiasts. This is Tanner Leeser, your host for all things Giallo, Giallo adjacent, here on The King in Giallo, and we're doing another unscripted talking head movie review. This is for the, pseudo Giallo adjacent film Your Hands on My Body, which is 1970, directed by Brunello Rondi, and this stars written by Luciano, Martino, Brunello Rondi, and Francesco Scardamaglia. I didn't know Luciano Martino wrote this. That's interesting. But it stars Lino Capolicchio, Erna Schürer, Colette Descombes, José Quaglio, and that's basically your main cast. So I had glossed over this and another film that I'll be talking about, which is Kill the Fatted Calf and Roast It, because Troy Howard didn't mention them in his book, and I generally go off of that for all of them. But the thing is, there's a lot. Here's the thing with Giallo, which a lot of us just come to accept, is that especially in the earlier days, like the 60s and early 70s, is the definition is very loose and all over the place because it's not so cut and dry of what it is. And this does fall into the category that I used to call it naughty elites. And I've in the last year or so, I've been calling it elites behaving badly. And watching this movie actually inspired me to do a video just covering this category in the future, because I believe it is the most misunderstood category of a Giallo film, because most people think of a Giallo as black gloved killer, which I also am inspired to do my own video covering that category as the most popular category of Giallo films. And it's to the point that a lot of people assume if the movie does not have a mysterious killer in black gloves and a trench coat going around killing people, and there's an ongoing amateur investigation, and there is murders happening all the time until we finally get to the end and find out who the killer is, if that doesn't happen, it's not a Giallo. And the thing is that's just not true. That's not true at all. Like I've said, that there's nowhere written that that's the definition of a Giallo. It's just that's what most people's takeaway is when they've seen the most popular Giallo films, which are murder mysteries. But when you go through the 60s, go through the early 70s, before that template became incredibly popular with Blood and Black Lace, which started the template, but Bird with the Crystal Plumage is the one that really popularized it, where then people started imitating Argento's movie more so than they were imitating Bava. That's where that visual template and that whole category and its tropes really took over, and they overshadowed the other films, which are still Giallo. It's just they're harder to classify as pure-blooded Giallo films. There's a whole discussion of whether this one is really a Giallo, whether it's not. But if this is not a Giallo, but the double is, and a rather complicated girl is, it's like, I don't understand that, because they all are that category that I'm talking about. Naughty elites behaving badly. Let me try and get into this. So I will say that I'm covering this movie and Kill the Fatted Calf and Roast It, which I have not watched yet. I will watch it right after this, because one of my friends' subscribers reached out to me and was like, hey, did you cover these movies? And I said, no, I didn't. Shit. Because again, Troy Howard didn't talk about them, so I didn't think about them, because to me, if it's not mentioned, why would I know this movie's existence? But if you go on Wikipedia and you look up Your Hands on My Body, it does say Italian Giallo film. Now, Wikipedia is not necessarily the best determining factor of whether a movie is Giallo, but here's the thing that I want to stress. People will reach out to me and ask me, hey, is this a Giallo film? And I'm always a little taken aback and surprised and kind of honored that it's gotten to the point that people respect me in terms of I'm an authority on this, which I'm not saying I am. I'm not saying you're correct, but it's flattering, I will say, and I appreciate it. But this is what I will say to this. There's two ways to look at, is this a Giallo or is this not? There's one way, which is if you want to be very strict on what the definition is, and you have to assume a level of authority to basically be like, no, this is, that's not, this is. And it becomes very like, no, it is a little gatekeepery, but it's essentially you're trying to be very thorough and pure-blooded in terms of, or purebred in terms of, these ones are giallo unequivocally, these ones are not really. And if you do that, you're going to get a very small list, and you're going to get mainly the giallo films that everybody knows are giallo films. The way that I approach this is, if Troy Howarth has talked about it, if Wikipedia says it's a giallo, if Vinegar Syndrome says this is a giallo, or Arrow Video says this is a giallo, or any other film boutique is selling a movie and they say this is a 1973 giallo film or inspired by giallo films, I'm going to take that. Now, this doesn't mean I say all of these movies are giallo films, but the way that I look at it is, the people that follow my channel and ask me questions, I think we all love this genre to the degree that we are willing to watch films that are not so black and white, easily classified as a giallo. And I appreciate that. And so for me, it's like, if Wikipedia says it's a giallo, let's just include it in the conversation, instead of being purists who know the answer, because the truth is, we don't. Genre is very fluid in this example, and to say for like certainty, to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is a giallo film and that one is not, I think is very arrogant. And it's just like, the only reason to do it would be like, oh, I am an authority on this. And the way I look at it is, we're all eager to watch as many of these movies as we can. Now, I will say that some of these movies are fringe or whatnot, but I'll say still, yeah, I would say it's, if you're interested in watching giallo films and you're interested in watching as many as you can, go ahead and include it. There's only been a few times I've watched a movie and I've questioned, I don't understand how this movie is considered giallo, but I don't think I've ever said it's not. The ones that I know were very weirdly fringe to me, the Redheaded Corpse, but again, I didn't say this is not. I just was like, yeah, I don't really get how a lot of people would say it. But Redheaded Corpse, Murder Mansion, the one I covered recently, Ringo, It's Massacre Time, also called Wanted Ringo, also called something else Ringo, had like numerous titles. But again, when you get into the nitty gritty of it, there's always a reason why it could be considered, or why it's at least worth looking at. And I think that's the bottom line of this, is it's like, it doesn't necessarily, the important thing is not like what are you writing a definitive list of, like, there's only 200 giallo films exactly, and these are the ones that are it, and these other ones are just not. I feel like most people who are watching my channel who really care are interested in anything that can really be considered it. Now, there's a few things that I will say, no, that's not. Like, let's be clear here, that's not. And the ones that I would say that for are the movies that are, more strictly speaking, Italian horror, because giallo is not a horror genre. It gets lumped into being a horror genre a lot of the times because it's a thriller genre, but it also is like, it straddles the line between crime on this side and horror on this side, but there's also psychological thriller and there's also erotic thriller, and it kind of sits in this weird limbo between all of these other things. But it's not strictly speaking horror, and a lot of people assume, oh, giallo means Italian horror, and that's not true. So movies that I would say, no, it's not, but they're still worth watching just in terms of if you are a fan of Italian horror, like Lucio Fulci's The Gates of Hell trilogy, which is House by the Cemetery, The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, as well as his film The Black Cat. There's a lot of other movies I could talk about. Zombie. These are not giallo. Like, they're not even really close. They very much are their own thing. They're mostly supernatural, and that's a whole thing, is that a giallo can't be supernatural. It has to be rooted in reality, and human actions are what's driving the plot, not the paranormal or the supernatural. Okay, Suspiria is the only one that I would say it's not a giallo, but if you're a giallo fan, you have to see it. It still behaves like a giallo, even though it's not. And it does a lot of the tropes, but it goes in a different direction. But it absolutely has to be included in the conversation, especially because Dario Argento created the trendsetter with The Bird with the Crystal Plumage in 1970, which kicked off the boom of giallo films. And then he made Deep Red in 1975, which is arguably the zenith of the genre. And then he made Suspiria, which is arguably the zenith of Italian horror films. So yes, do watch it, but please keep it out of your top Giallo films lists or Giallo films you need to see or Giallo films for beginners. Just that's all I would say. Do watch it, but please just don't call it a Giallo. I know I'm not making sense here. But getting back to it. So this movie, because I am kind of getting all over the place. And I will say, I do not have a whole lot to say about this movie. Because ultimately I found it pretty damn boring. But I decided, because I was already cutting my 1970 tier ranking video for Giallo films, and I finished editing it, and then I was told, well, you should watch this and Kill the Fatted Calf and roast it. And I decided, you know what, it's 2 more movies, I'll do it, and then I can just add that little addendum. I'll film the addendum, me throwing him in my tier ranking as well. But yes, this one at least is a Elites Behaving Badly. IMDb says, a young rich layabout becomes the object of lust of his father's trophy wife while he is more interested in her best friend. And the Wikipedia description is, a young neurotic dedicates his life to harassing others, especially his father and stepmother. Not even an encounter with a beautiful girl manages to keep him away from his world of macabre fantasies. Yeah. So this is as true to the category of Elites Behaving Badly as you can get. I'm not going to be as eloquent describing it right now because I really ought to write a script talking about this, but it is very much rich, usually trust fund kids. It's usually rich people that are very cut off from reality of life. Most of them are, like I said, most of them are the sons of wealthy people who've earned their money or run a business. It's usually the sons who are just inheriting it, and so they just lie about. And it both is like, it comes off as like an indictment of the super wealthy, super elite as just being like horrible people. And I'm not saying like this is true, but I'm saying on one hand, this is the way that people of the lower class have been known to perceive wealthier people. Is it's like they just don't get it. They're disconnected. They're selfish. They're snobs. They're arrogant. And you're following these people who are just so bored because they don't do anything. They don't work. They've never been told no in their lives. So they sleep with their friends' girlfriends, or they sleep with their father's new wife, or they do this, or they harass people, or they're bored, and it's any of those things, and it's all of them. And then the other aspect of these movies is kind of speaking to this era of society in terms of consumerism, capitalism, things like that, that people have just lost the meaning of life. And because they're living in this, they're inundated in it, and for these people, they just have they have no connection to the world other than their own desires and their own wants, that they're basically soulless shells of people. And I don't think these movies are saying the elites are bad, the wealthy are bad, and consumerism and capitalism is bad. I think it's just a bit of a cautionary tale in terms of we can't, these things, we can have these things in our society, but we just can't lose sight of the bigger picture. And another thing I'll point out is that in my gialli tallies, I talk about, I tally up points for movies that actors and cast people were in previously, and I have skipped over this one because I didn't think about it, because I didn't know it existed. But Colette Descombes was in Orgasmo, but I don't think she was in anything beyond that. But José Quaglio was in the 2 Aldo Lado Giallo films, Short Night of Glass Dolls, as well as Who Saw Her Die. So I did not give him points for appearing in this movie. Another thing I'll say is the casting of Lino Capolicchio, not sure exactly. He's good, but this is what I'm saying about this category of Giallo. His part would normally be played by Jean Sorel or maybe Luc Castel, and the guy's good. I'm not saying he should be cast by someone else, but if any other of these movies of these elites behaving badly, he would be played by Jean Sorel. And Jean Sorel is the perfect, handsome playboy who just, lays around and just spends his time hooking up with any woman he can and cheating other people. The other thing I'll say about this genre or this category of Giallo is there may not be an ongoing killer, But typically, all of these movies, these elites behaving badly, have a murder at the end. They sometimes have a murder at the beginning in the case of The Double. And The Double is framed just like Short Night of Glass Dolls, where John Sorrell gets shot by someone in a parking garage. And then the movie goes back in time to see, how did we get here? Why did this man decide to shoot him? Great use of in medias res, I will say, because I hate when people do that, like, 6 months earlier. Like, just start your movie where it starts. However, in the case of Short Night of Glass Dolls and in the case of The Double, I think the framing device works very well. Also because the movies maybe are not painfully interesting without it, versus most horror movies that do it, it's like, it's a horror movie. The inciting incident is going to make it exciting already. You don't need to do this. It's just sloppy. Anyways, usually these movies do all lead to a murder at the end. Usually it is, the playboy guy that I'm talking about, that type of archetype. Usually you get to the end and they kill somebody because, again, the movie has been spending its entire running time showing you that this person is selfish and kind of a sociopath, and they don't think of anybody else but themselves, or it ends with them getting killed. So yeah, I'm excited in terms of talking about this, as this is a category of giallo films. Most people don't consider these giallo because it's so fringe, but again, it wasn't until after Bird with the Crystal Plumage that most people started zeroing in on the murder mystery type of movie. But you still have the psychological thrillers, you still have the movies with imperfect memories and the unreliable narrator and characters dealing with trauma, and all these things play a part. But it's just the black glove killer category is the most popular. But yeah, what can I say about this movie in terms of the plot? I kind of already said what the synopsis is, and that's all I really want to say, because all I can further talk about this movie is I just thought it was boring. In terms of the naughty elites behaving badly category, this is probably my least favorite I have seen. A Rather Complicated Girl is more interesting. The Double is more interesting. There's a lot of others. Umberto Lenzi's giallo films in the 60s are very much elites behaving badly. So you get that with So Sweet, So Perverse, Orgasmo, Quiet Place to Kill, Oasis of Fear, kind of, although those characters are not elites, they're hippies, but it's the same kind of idea of these individuals who are a little, I don't want to say disenfranchised, but they're just, again, they're a little just self-consumed. Now you could say, oh, but they're liberated. It's like, are they truly liberated? Or is that how they can pat themselves on the back? Because that's what I think of Oasis of Fear, is that it's not celebrating these hippies and their worldview. It's kind of indicting them. It's kind of saying, like, these kids are full of shit. And again, I don't think that's to say that the genre at large or the movie is saying hippies are terrible and they're full of shit. I think it's just saying you got to be cautionary about any of these lifestyles or worldviews that can lead you astray and lead you to cut yourself off from others and from the world. That's all I'm saying. So the movie is available. The movie is available on YouTube. I will try to upload it, but it is already on YouTube. But I do find that when I upload it myself, it's easier to find for some people. But do check it out if you are interested. If you're not interested, that's totally fine. I feel like I jibber-jabbered a lot in this video, way more than I wanted to, but I talked about other things. Like I said, the movie itself was not totally interesting to me, but this discussion, this topic is very interesting to me. But anyways, I will end this now. I will watch Kill the Fatted Calf and roast it, and then I will cut my review for that, and then I will refilm the ranking for the 1970 giallo films, and I'll go from there. But yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are on this movie. Let me know what your thoughts are on elites behaving badly, naughty elites. Let me know what you think about that. Like I said, if you don't consider those giallo films, I get it, because they're just the truth of the matter is for the most part, this category is just not as enthralling. It's not as exciting. Deep Red, Bird of the Crystal Plumage, Black Belly of the Tarantula, Case of the Bloody Iris, these are all way more exciting movies by comparison. Way more. So I get it. But yeah, do let me know what your thoughts are on this whole discussion, and I will get back to you. Any questions, comments, curiosities, or concerns, leave those below. I will get back to you, as I just said. And beyond that, thank you for watching. Thank you for checking this out. Thank you for sticking with me. This is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, I'll see you at the next one. Thank you for watching.